Oh, hey, eighth graders. What up? Oh, hey, Caesar. Let's talk about chapter 11. These are notes that we took in years past that I had you write down in your history notebook. But since the coronavirus, yeah, we're not in school, the best we're going to have to do is you're going to listen to me for the next 7 to 8 minutes, lecture you about chapter 11. Oh, goody. Yeah, good news. So strap yourselves in, get that something to drink, open up those ears, and let's do some learning, my friends. Chapter 11, the Industrial Revolution. Essentially, machines are taking the place of humans and doing some of the work that mankind used to have to do themselves. We're also changing the way how we do things. We're producing things in large numbers. We're making things interchangeable. We're building factories for people to come to work. I mean, think about that. Before this, you never left the farm. That's where work was. Now you're leaving your house to go to work. These factories are dangerous. You have to fight for better conditions. You're working long hours, but anyone can work there. You can get paid. It's again, the Industrial Revolution changed life in America during these 1800s. I want you to think about computers, how much they've changed life. I've experienced it being born in 1982. You guys have always known computers, but think how much we rely on computers and life without them. It'd be a different world that we lived in, and that's what it was in this Industrial Revolution. It's changing the way we live. So, as those factories are being built, one example of a factory town was the Lowell Mills. It's in Massachusetts. So a whole town is dedicated to one factory, in this case, mills to produce clothes and textiles. So this guy, Francis Cabot, says, hey, girls, you want to get away from the farm? You want a chance at an education? Do you not want to marry your next door neighbor? Well, come and work for the Lowell Mills. Now, in exchange for working 40, 50 hours a week in these factories, where again, you're going to be working these looms, making the clothes, we'll give you an education, we'll pay you, we'll get you off the farm. There's a chance for girls to kind of do something other than marry the guy next to them and produce children. So the Lowell Mills was an example of a whole town revolving around a factory, which was not uncommon at the time. Once these factories started being built, people moved so they could live close to where those factories were. And with that came urbanization, the growth of cities in the United States. Again, before Industrial Revolution, farmers. After Industrial Revolution, factories, people move into the city. New York, Philadelphia, these cities explode in their population because it's attracting people from all over the world to work in these factories and getting paid. Unfortunately, the first cities in the United States, the really big ones, were kind of gross. They were smelly, they were stinky, there was no sanitation. Everything's on fire, they're overcrowded, there's no clean water. Life's tough in those first cities, but we're becoming kind of an urban nation. Now, the new technology, we went over this yesterday. Do you remember it, Caesar? Oh, yeah. If you didn't watch this video from yesterday, early on Tuesday, you need to watch it. Go back in the stream and watch it. But some new technologies invented. A telegraph, we can communicate over long distances in the course of minutes. Mechanical reaper and thresher, improve farm technology and make life on the farm much more efficient. Sewing machines, we can mass produce clothes. Steamboats and railroads, we can move those crops and goods to other parts of the country very quickly. Cotton gin makes us the richest country in the world, speeds up cotton production, a huge cash crop at this time. So this whole perfect storm of new inventions, new technology, life changing. So with all these factories being built, new technology, new opportunities for people to start moving to this country, and we see a huge wave of immigration. When did your family come to the United States? Chances are it might have been in the 1800s, early 1900s. Again, factories being built, immigrants looking to leave Europe, find a job here. Again, anyone can work in these factories, make better livings than they were over there. Now, unfortunately, when an immigrant moves to a new country, the people that were living in this country, they're not always nice to those immigrants. And such was the case. These immigrants faced discrimination, the denial of equal rights and whatnot. It's terrible. But speaking of terrible, immigrants at least were getting paid. One group of people that was not getting paid were slaves. And again, with the invention of Eli Whitney's cotton gin, there's a huge demand for cotton. Plantations need slaves to get the cottons from the fields to those factories in the north. At one point, there's 4 million slaves in the United States being treated brutally. If you're looking for a great example, 12 Years a Slave is about as good as movie as you can get depicting slavery. But it's an ugly cycle that all revolves around money in this country. Again, if this industrial revolution happening, there's factories in the north. They need cotton to produce the clothes in those factories. Farmers can make money by growing cotton. It becomes the #1 crop in this country because we need it. We can make money. So we need more slaves being brought to those plantations to get the cotton out of the field. Cotton gin can speed up production, but we need the raw materials. We need the cotton from the fields. And while America is getting rich, African Americans are suffering terribly. They're treated as property and not as humans. So when you read from 11.3 about plantation life, slave codes, again, it's an ugly part of American history, all for the sake of making money. Now, one other thing you'll read about in this chapter, turnpikes, roads, canals. We need to move stuff. People need to move. Goods need to move. Crops need to move. So the Erie Canal, for example, we literally dig a river across the state of New York. Thousands of immigrant workers basically make this happen, a monumental achievement to build these canals and railroads and steamboats. But again, people and goods and crops, they're moving faster in a more efficient way. The last thing in chapter 11, stay with me. You guys are still with me. Are you, Caesar? Yeah, Caesar's still here. So that issue of slavery, let me get out of the way of my beautiful drawing of America. So we're trying to keep the balance of slave states and free states, but as we're adding more states to our country, it's becoming harder and harder. For example, in 1819, there were 11 free states and 11 slave states. Neither side wants the other one to have an advantage in Congress so they could pass pro or anti-slavery laws. So when we were looking to add Maine, a free state, the issue was, well, that's going to create an imbalance. So the Missouri Compromise, here was the solution. We're going to add Missouri as a slave state, Maine as a free state. That'll keep the balance. We're also going to draw a line across the southern border of Missouri. Moving forward, any territory above that line, you're not allowed to have slavery. If you're south of that line, you can. Is that going to work? It also created this law which forced Northerners to help recapture runaway slaves. Essentially, my friends, it was a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It's trying to come to a compromise on an issue that people aren't willing to compromise on, slavery. And this is just one of the first steps to what will eventually lead to that civil war that's coming up in a couple chapters here. Are you still with me? Are you still awake? Did you get that? Were you paying attention? Oh, good, Caesar. I'm glad you were. Maybe that'll help you with your chapter 11 questions, which again, by Thursday night, also Shark Tank, Friday or Monday. Come up with some new idea that's going to change life in 2020. All right, my friends, thank you for watching that video. Ruther on 3. 1, 2, 3, Ruther. Bye-bye. Stalling noises. Still recording. Bye-bye.